Someone once jokingly asked me, if Xie Chaoji and a stranger both fell into the water, who would I save first? I gave an answer they did not expect. I'd save the stranger first, and then stand there clapping in joy. Xie Chaoji was standing behind me, confident and certain of his victory. Upon hearing this, his expression turned dark. He had been planning to take out the jade pendant I once blessed for him, to mock me as nothing but a sycophant feigning composure. But then he realized, inside the box of jade pendants and embroidered works I had made, the names on the paintings had never once been his. I was the wife mocked by the entire capital for being insignificant. After my husband passed the examinations, he promptly brought back a courtesan from Drunken Flower House. That courtesan carried a child in her arms, led another by the hand, her slim waist swaying like water, pitiful and alluring all at once. I thought to myself, to bear 2 children within 3 years truly was remarkable. 3 years ago, the very first year of our marriage. The capital laughed at me, saying I had no dignity. Just rumors, I told myself. But when I stood at the doorway and saw the 2 of them leaning against each other, I did not grow angry. Instead, I smiled gently. The 2 of you truly are a match made in heaven. Xie Chaoji was a man of talent, brilliant in court debate, with looks and charm that drew the emperor's special favor, earning him the position of Tanhua. From there, he rose step by step. No longer the man in need of my dowry to sustain the household. I knew the courtesan beside him, Chunying from Drunken Flower House. On the day Xie Chaoji placed on the golden list, he drank himself senseless. Under the autumn moonlight, he clasped my hand, his peach blossom eyes showing tenderness for the first time. He murmured, "Chunying, Chunying. I did not treat you well." He repeated it again and again, full of sentiment and regret. But in truth, it was he who once came to my door to propose. Though to call it a proposal was generous, it was more of a transaction. My father valued the hereditary title of the Xie family. Xie Chaoji valued the wealth of my merchant household. And I became the traded item between them, like a thing without life or feeling. When the congratulations ended, Chunying's tears fell for no reason. Even Xie Chaoji rarely spared me a glance. But I bore no blame, no jealousy, no resentment, only a calm, benevolent smile. Chunying thought for a moment, then stepped back, avoiding Xie Chaoji's gaze. "Xie Lang, I am afraid," she said softly. He instinctively shielded her, though there was no real meaning to it. To face someone as calm as I was only made him seem petty. He patted her gently, murmuring, "Don't be afraid. From now on, this will be your home. I will protect you." They clung to each other. I remained indifferent. Standing by the gate, amid the noise of carriages and choking dust, I kept my poise, bowed, and left. If Xie Chaoji was willing to ruin his future for a courtesan, then let them bear the infamy together. At most, I'd have someone buy firecrackers and set them off to celebrate. The next day, the noble ladies of the capital all heard of Xie Chaoji's intent to divorce his wife and remarry. The gossips sent invitations, wanting me to host a gathering so they could witness my humiliation at the Xie residence. I didn't even blink, told the maid to treat the invitations as kindling and burn them. I already had enough of seeing Xie Chaoji's face every day. Why waste time listening to idle women talk about him? When the divorce letter was signed, I opened the window. Outside, plum blossoms blazed in the sun like gold. I breathed deeply, reaching to catch a petal drifting through the air. Then came the faint sound of porcelain breaking. I turned, meeting a pair of dark eyes filled with panic. It was the stable hand. Awkwardly, he set down a vase of fresh plum blossoms, speaking haltingly. "Plum blossoms, very beautiful today. Picked them, for you." He was from the western regions, nameless, sold into servitude by slavers for his poor grasp of the language. I had taken pity on him and brought him into the household. Tall, broad-shouldered, hair thick and coarse, his presence was raw and untamed. His thin clothes made the muscles of his chest stand out, even in the bitter cold, his honey-colored skin radiated warmth. I was always kind to him. Even when he barged in uninvited, the sincerity in his gaze made it hard for me to be angry. "Thank you," I said. He looked at me intently, then dipped his head, a faint smile tugging at his lips, bowing with solemn care before hurrying off. That smile, pure as a clear lake carved into the desert, was nothing like the hearts in this capital, as treacherous and false as a smelter's forge. I shook my head, memories surfacing. Clutching the jade pendant in my hand, I closed my eyes. "Sister." I opened them to find Chunying at the door, holding her son's hand, hesitating to enter. The maid looked at them with undisguised hatred. But Chunying pretended not to notice, speaking meekly. "Last night, Xia Lang stayed with me and kept me up all night. I woke late and forgot to greet you this morning. I've come now, hoping you won't take offense." I idly picked up a book. He snores, grinds his teeth, and his feet smell. "How is that keeping you up?" Chunying stiffened. She must have thought that flaunting her pitiful hold over him would make me so angry my ears would smoke. But the sad truth was, no matter how hard she clung to him, thinking it a way to build her standing, she would end up with nothing but his contempt. Chunying's face tightened as she urged her son forward. The chubby boy burst into tears, running toward me, fists raised. "Don't you dare talk about my father like that. You're a bad woman. Get out of our house." He lunged like a little firecracker, fists aiming at me. I frowned, pressing a hand to his head. He was nothing like a well-bred child. When his blows missed, he bit, spat, and kicked viciously at my lower belly. A sheltered young lady might have been left with bruises from such tricks. But before marriage, I was the daughter of a merchant family, traveling the length of the land with trade caravans. I seized his ear without hesitation and delivered a sharp slap. Before he could steady himself, Chunying rushed over like an arrow, clutching her son while hurling accusations. "He's still young, he doesn't know any better. How could you take it out on a child? He's the Xie family's treasure, what if you hurt him?" "Treasure," she said. I looked at the boy as one might look at something base and common. My brow arched slightly as I replied, calm and indifferent. "As the mistress of this household, do I not have the right to discipline its children?" Chunying's eyes widened. Her expression was far too shallow, her smugness spilling out for all to see. "You will soon no longer be Xia Lang's wife, no longer the mistress of this family." That was the message she wanted me to hear. But even if I had no desire to keep my seat, it was not her place to scorn me. I did not get the divorce letter I had been expecting. Instead, I got Xie Chaoji. That night, just as I lay down, he came in, draped in a fox fur cloak. I kept my face serene, leaving the top button of my robe undone. He shrugged off the cloak, revealing a thin robe of ivory silk. The candlelight swayed, casting shadows on the smear of rouge at his collar. I guessed someone had been whispering in his ear. Sure enough, when he opened his mouth, his first words were complaints. "Lonner cried all night," said his bones ached. "Not only did you refuse to forgive Chunying, you were cruel enough to punish a child, pushing him until he fell. Truly tiresome. And now we must argue before bed." I rose with composure and bowed slowly. "Whatever you think of me, as long as it pleases you." It was my particular way of avoiding conflict. Xie Chaoji stood still, his eyes like moonlight dissolving into clouds, sometimes hidden, sometimes clear. Then he asked suddenly, "Were you crying?" Instinctively, I covered the corner of my reddened eyes. The cold night air carried its own freedom. In the dark, I could not stop myself from recalling the falsehoods of the past. My tears fell, unbidden, because of him. Xie Chaoji's tone grew awkward. "Always playing the fragile one. You haven't said anything too excessive. As the mistress of this household, it's only right that Lonner and Yuer be taught by you. After this, there will still be an after." I asked softly. "Better to let Chunying handle them. She's their mother, and she will soon be the mistress of the Xie household. He was silent for a moment, fingers twitching slightly. Things that haven't happened yet, we'll speak of later. I was taken aback. Later. Wasn't he supposed to decide now, send me the divorce letter, and send me back to my family? But Xie Chaoji never brought the matter up again. He looked tired, not bothering to undo the top button of his robe. Go to sleep. He was heartless, yet outwardly refined, eyes like pearls, bright enough to stir the heart. As if thinking of something, he suddenly laughed. One more child in the household means more life. A few more later, noise and bustle make it better. I suspected those words weren't meant for me. Likely he had said them to Chunying and she had spoiled his mood. After all, though we had been married 3 years, there were no children between us. He lay on the bed, lowering the curtain, his hand gripping my chin. From above, he looked at me as though intimacy were both a lesson and a favor he granted me. The only son of the Xie family, gifted and handsome, passing the examinations young, he possessed so much that he found it only natural for all women to want him. Thus, no matter how cold I acted, he assumed I was a love-struck fool willing to endure anything. I coughed, pushing his hand away. I've caught a chill, don't come near. He was in the mood, and my words cooled him. It's fine, he said coldly. It is not fine, I countered. My monthly cycle is near, I'm too tired to move. His hand, pressed to the headboard, stilled. He was not a patient man, what I had just said was already pushing him to his limit. Sure enough, he snapped. Then rest. I won't set foot in your room this month. He turned to go, and I hid my delight under the covers, an entire month without facing him. He fumbled clumsily with the buttons of his robe, making me fight the urge to laugh. Even when I did, I kept it soft. When he finished dressing, he lingered for a moment, then huffed coldly and slammed the door. I had no idea what had angered him so, but I felt wonderfully light. The next day, I claimed illness to avoid receiving Chunying's morning greeting, retreating to my room for some quiet. But my maid persuaded me to go out, to the rear garden to enjoy the snow. I had been waiting in vain for that divorce letter, so I decided a little fresh air might ease my mood. Petals leaned gently under their own weight. I stood beneath the tree, carefully choosing dry plum branches to hold in my arms. A man, why are you here? Quickly greet the mistress. My maid called out. So the stablehand's name was a man. He looked up in surprise, then without hesitation knelt in greeting, though still clutching the plum branch tightly. Mistress. Perhaps because he was from a far-off land, he did not speak with the same formal phrases as the other servants. Just those 2 words, low and rough, almost like a whisper. He rose, eyes lifting to mine. Even kneeling, he was scarcely shorter than I. Like a wild beast, he carried the untamed fierceness of one. I couldn't help but ask. I remember all the servants were given winter clothes. Why are you wearing so little? Did the steward cut your share? He shook his head, gaze deep. Too hot. The maid beside me whispered. Master, a man is strong and skilled, why not have him catch us fish to eat? I frowned. Ridiculous. In the middle of winter, why make him do such a thing? Be quiet. But a man said nothing, only offered me the flowers before running straight toward the lake. Ice splintered in all directions. Come back. I called quickly. But my maid held me back. It was then I realized, if I guessed right, he was just a fool. Perhaps meeting a man that day, even the gift of plum blossoms before, had all been her idea. She was the maid who had followed me from my mother's home. I frowned. Joshua, what are you doing? Joshua, full of self-righteousness, declared. Master, I've seen clearly, here in the capital, wealthy men are corrupt and degenerate. Can you not find yourself a loyal servant to ease your loneliness? Since the master of the house can bring someone home after passing the examinations, why can't you find someone as well? A man is pleasing to the eye, tall, strong. If you ask me, he's perfect for you. A headache pressed against my temples. I let out a sigh. Joshua hesitated, then spoke more softly. I know you still think of young Master Liang, but the past is the past. You should look forward. Unconsciously, I clenched the jade pendant in my hand. I had knelt from the temple gates all the way to the Buddha's altar to pray, and received this pendant in return, 3 words carved into the back. Liang Nanan. He's not dead, I murmured. The names of the soldiers killed at the front were taken from their military tags. His name was not among them. Joshua sighed. Still. Master, you see how many men there are in this world, why hang yourself on a single tree? Suddenly, the sound of splashing water. A man's powerful hands gripped the bank, muscles standing out under the water. He hauled himself up, fingers closing around the tail of a fish. He quickly threw on a dry outer robe, but underneath, he was still damp, his chest and abdomen hard and defined. I glanced at him. Oh. In his hand was the lion-head goldfish Xie Chaoji had paid 500 taels for, now gasping, thrashing in pain. If Xie Chaoji knew, it would wound him deeply. I couldn't help giving a man a silent thumbs up. A sick lady shouldn't be out here, came a voice behind me, cold and heavy as a funeral bell. I turned. Xie Chaoji was approaching with Chunying, the chubby boy clinging to her hand. From afar, they looked like the true family. The light of plum blossoms and snow reflected off Xie Chaoji's face, pale, cold, and shadowed with something darker. Chunying clung to his arm, but her eyes were fixed on me. I bowed silently to Xie Chaoji, signaling Joshua to follow me. But as I turned to go, Xie Chaoji spoke, voice measured. Of late, you seem to like plum blossoms. I recall you had a pot of them on your table before. I stopped, lifting my gaze. His eyes, however, were not on me, they were on a man. A man's rugged vitality was a stark contrast to his own. Tall, wild, brimming with life, like an untamed scroll painted in bold, sweeping strokes. Suddenly, Xie Chaoji barked. Scoundrel! Drag that servant out and give him 20 blows. He had seen the dead goldfish in a man's hand. This had started because of Joshua. Forcing a man into the freezing water was already too much. If he were beaten now, it could kill him. I sighed and stepped forward. Husband, he was only following my orders, unaware of the household rules. 20 blows could be fatal, let me punish him myself. His lips tightened. First time I've seen you so spirited. He wasn't wrong. Since marrying into the Xie family, I had lived like a Buddha statue with closed eyes, never interfering in his affairs. Chunying laughed lightly. Chaoji, spare him. Sister is sick yet walks in the garden, meets this servant by chance, and now pleads for him. This man is truly blessed, heaven itself must protect him. I said evenly. And what do you mean by that, Miss Chunying? Are you implying I have an improper relationship with this servant? You've not been here long, yet you have such a sharp eye for private matters. Have you been paying attention all along? Chunying opened her mouth to retort, but Xie Chaoji stopped her. His gaze on me was cold, shadowed with disbelief and a strange anger. I knew, both of them still saw me as the love-struck fool pining after Xie Chaoji. Chunying's words were only meant to tarnish me, not because she truly believed I'd consort with a household servant. His anger was simply because I had made him lose face in front of his beloved, because I had dared to talk back. Xia Lang, you've forgotten, this afternoon we're due at Jade Pavilion for a banquet and opera. Don't dawdle here. Didn't you say you'd draw my brows yourself? Chunying tugged at his sleeve. His expression heavy, he took a few steps before suddenly turning back. If you're well enough, you can come with us this afternoon. Behind him, Chunying's smile faltered. Xie Chaoji was like a predator, always acting on impulse. Likely he wanted to make me a public joke. I coughed, leaning weakly on Joshua, waving a hand. No need. My cough's too bad. His face shifted rapidly, frost in his eyes, even his cheeks flushed with anger. Pride in his noble lineage meant he rarely lost composure like this. He was truly furious. Good. Very good. He ground out. Then he turned sharply, striding away so fast Chunning nearly stumbled trying to keep up. When I returned to my room, Joshua could no longer hold back, speaking in eager whispers. Master, first we get rid of the master of the house. Then we raise Chunning's children under your name. You'll be the titled lady of the Xia household, power, status, wealth. And if you feel lonely, just tuck that warm a man into your bed. I clamped my hand over her mouth. No one said I'm staying in this house forever. Xia Chaoji is about to divorce and remarry. She muttered. I think he won't give you the divorce letter. If he were going to for Chunning's sake, he'd have done it long ago. He will, I said. If not by his hand, then by my mother-in-law's. Someone will quote the law at me. 3 years without a child, the wife is unvirtuous, and deserves to be cast out. Joshua murmured. Is it because of the medicine you can't have children? Stop taking it and you'll conceive. Why bother taking the divorce letter back to your family? Your father will despise you, force you to remarry for his reputation. Better to. I silenced her again. Enough. Footsteps halted outside the door, lingering as if the person hesitated to enter. Joshua went to open it, and after a moment, she led someone through the curtain. The tall silhouette of a man loomed faintly through the blue gauze. He didn't kneel, his cheek almost touching the curtain, breath warm enough to stir the fabric, yet he didn't move away. Master. It was indeed a man. He raised his head, and even through the curtain, I felt the frank, clear gaze. Master, tell me to take the punishment. A man will take it. After leading him in, Joshua slipped out and locked the door from the outside. Crude in words, delicate in her actions. Perhaps after being caught by Xia Chaoji wandering in the garden, she had grown more cautious, slipping out now to stand guard. I drew back the curtain, my fingers trembling. A man was entirely serious. He even seemed ready to bind himself with red cord and present himself to me. His wrists were tied in front, knees bent on the floor, his clothes still wet, the taut cords outlining the shape of his body. I turned away. There's no need. This was only the foolish game of that little maid. Go back. It's cold, don't stay in wet clothes. A man lowered his head, solid as a mountain. Then he looked up, dazed. Master, not beat me. He spoke only in simple phrases, and I had to piece together his meaning. He told me he had been tricked and sold after being captured. Whatever he did was wrong, and beatings were part of life. He also said he was grateful I had given him good work. Though the stables were filthy and foul-smelling, the horses were still better than people. I sighed. A man, you don't need to thank me. The past is gone, but can the future be different? You needn't always be a servant, always take others' blows. I didn't bring you here to endure. You deserve a better life. He looked at me, his black eyes bright as fresh morning dew. And in that moment, I understood why Joshua had chosen him, not because he spoke little or was foreign, but because he was untainted, unsullied by the dust of the world, and made others want to open their hearts. I help you without other intent, I said. It's only because we're alike, you for being foreign, me for being a woman. In this society, women are looked down upon, sold young, lucky just to have enough to eat and perhaps a little schooling with their brothers. As wives, we are often beaten and despised, yet if a husband does not betray or strike us, he's considered good. Xia Chaoji is deemed a fine match because he was Tanhua, with an inherited title. Chenying bears him 1 or 2 children, strives without rest yet still lacks a place, while I, with the means to find profit in trade, am cast aside only for 3 childless years and a tarnished reputation. I closed my eyes. A man, the world is cruel. I understand the sorrow in your heart. Even if my strength is no more than a mosquito's, if I can help someone, I will. I did not know how much he understood. He only looked at me in silence, then held out his bound wrists. I loosened the red cord. He was tall, powerful, one hand could easily kill a man, yet he bowed to me with careful respect. When he knelt, his forehead touched the embroidered toe of my shoe, the jade beads trembling softly. I found myself clutching the red cord, even the thread that had touched him felt warm. Master, from now on, we together. Like two mosquitoes. He mispronounced the word, clumsy but earnest. I couldn't help but laugh. A man's eyes lifted, the corners curving slightly, as though a painting were slowly unfolding, beginning with the eyes, then the smile, bright as a small sun. A man, the bright little star of the western regions. That night, I woke abruptly. The porcelain vase of plum blossoms lay shattered, petals crushed among white shards. As I rose, a cold hand seized my shoulder from behind, shoving me back into bed. I struggled, pushing hard, and cried out. Who's there? Of course, I knew it was Xie Chaoji. I only pretended to ask for a chance to shove him away. He staggered, falling beside my pillow. Drunk, reeking of wine, he looked almost weak. Propping himself up, his voice was low, shadowed. Other than me, who could climb into your bed? I kept my face smooth. Oh. I thought it was a demon. In 3 years of marriage, whenever he drank, his usual composure vanished. He never caught the bite of my sarcasm while drunk, so I always spoke more sharply then. He didn't reply, muttering instead. There are 25 plum trees in the estate. Only 2 show signs of someone climbing them recently. They're tall, if not you, then only a maid or a tall man could have done it. Why must it be me? I said. I could have asked the gardener to pick them. The higher blooms are lovelier, why not take them? Xie Chaoji nodded. Well said. But he didn't sound convinced. His hand caught me, dragging me insistently into his arms. He was like a restless stray dog, searching for a reason he couldn't name. You're right. I can't find a reason to argue. But something feels wrong. I'm not used to it. He held me tighter when I struggled, fingers slipping into my collar, brushing my collarbone. His arms were a chain around me from behind, his coldness making me shiver. When I moved, he only pulled me closer. Don't run. Tell me plainly, we need to be clear. There's nothing to say, Xie Chaoji. The only thing that matters now, write me the divorce letter, and I'll give Chunying her place. He was silent for a moment. We'll speak later. Wait a year. The new year is near, if I cast you out now, where will you go? I could always stay in my little shop, setting off firecrackers every day until the 5th. I sighed. And Chunying. Aren't you going to Jade Pavilion with her? It's late, go. Don't trouble me. Too much trouble, if he vomited, I'd have to change the sheets. Better he bother Chunying. He chuckled, swaying as he held me like a foolish dog wagging its tail. Jealous, are you? You want me to go with her, but won't go yourself, can't blame me. He looked away. My face was frozen into emptiness. From childhood, Xie Chaoji had been his family's hope, indulged as a noble child. He wasn't so much malicious as accustomed to taking others' kindness for granted, cold, detached, and convinced all affection was his due. He always assumed refusals were a pretense, that with a little coaxing, people would return to him. I didn't respond. His laughter fell into silence. Then his fingers brushed my lips, then my cheek, the darkness his only way of sensing my expression. Why don't you call me husband anymore? At last, he noticed. I'm tired, Xie Chaoji, I sighed. Don't wait until next year, give me the divorce now. He let go. I took his silence as tacit agreement, our conversation was over. Shaking off his hand, I rose, intending to pour a cup of tea. But without warning, Xie Chaoji suddenly erupted, his arms closed around my waist, and I was lifted into the air before my back slammed against the bed frame. He was like a rabid dog, unable to control himself. He clung to me, his body cold but his face burning hot. "Why don't you call me husband anymore?" As if not hearing anything I'd said before, he asked again, softly this time. I clenched my teeth. If I brought up divorce again, he might realize I was anticipating it, and use it to threaten me. So I could only answer patiently, dryly. "Husband." He hummed in reply. He was often cold or short-tempered, and I never minded much, but when he was drunk, he became intolerable. Now he wanted more, shaking my arm. "Say it again." I'd had enough. My hand lashed out for a slap, but the shameless Xiaoji caught my wrist, gripping even harder. "Hey." His breath came hot and angry. "Calling me like that, without joy, you're hoping I'll divorce you, aren't you?" We stared at each other in silence. I had no idea what was in his mind, but in this darkness, not knowing from where he might strike made it impossible to accept. I would kick him if I had to. After a long pause, he spoke again. "You've changed. You weren't like this before. You used to be gentle, kept the household well, never argued with me." I said nothing. What lay between us was like a fleeting dream. Once awake, it was gone, leaving only bewilderment. He sighed at last, releasing me. Staggering to the door, he left, but halfway out, he turned back. "Phoo, wife, it's too cold tonight. I remember you said you'd embroider me a new robe. Has it been finished? Give it to me, so I won't freeze." I froze, then realized what he meant. That robe was not for Xiaoji, it was something I had idly begun, meant for Liang Nanan. We had grown up together like siblings. He once took me to eavesdrop outside the private school, and I had knitted him a scarf. If not for the imperial draft, sending him to war without news, then 3 years ago might have been our wedding night. I remembered the night Xiaoji came home late from drinking, stumbled into the wrong room, and saw me embroidering. He glanced at it, rubbed his brow, lay down to rest, and not long after, complained that my stitching was ugly and the candlelight strained my eyes, telling me to blow it out so he could sleep. I hadn't thought he would remember. I coughed lightly. It was ugly. I burned it long ago. He stood there, looking at me. "Is that so?" He lingered a while longer, as if unable to find more to say, then finally left. Thanks to Xiaoji, I barely slept. The next morning, Zhou Zhuo came to wake me. "Master, aren't we going today?" I forced my eyes open. Of course. It isn't easy to pray to the abbot at Jiahua Temple. If we miss today, we'll have to wait a long while again. Zhou Zhuo sighed, shaking her head. "Master, you and young Master Liang truly are the devoted sort." I murmured. "He and I are the past." I hurried through my washing and preparations, then set out under the pretext of offering prayers at Jiahua Temple. On the way, I drifted into a dream. In it, I saw Liang Nanan. Liang Nanan was a kind and gentle man. When I was young, my younger brother, pampered by our parents, never punished, often bullied me like a punching bag. Once, he kicked me hard enough to swell my right cheek and knock out a front tooth. My mother said that a girl who lost her looks had no value. Terrified, I collapsed to the ground, sobbing. Liang Nanan suddenly charged forward, ramming his head into my brother's stomach and knocking him over. But my brother, well-fed and stout, often played with the local street ruffians. Liang Nanan was no match and was beaten badly. As he left, my brother laughed. "I'll tell mother you found some strange boy to fight me. I'll say you're a shameless woman, and she'll teach you a lesson." Liang Nanan struggled to his feet, bruised and bloodied, and asked, "Are you all right?" Though I was younger, he was already studying, always dressed neatly, his clothes finer than mine. "I've lost a tooth," I cried. "I won't be worth anything now." He told me to open my mouth, then, like an older brother, comforted me. "It's fine, you're still growing. I see a bit of white at the gum, that means a new tooth will come." Don't be afraid. But don't touch it with your tongue, or it'll grow in crooked. I stopped crying, whispering. You shouldn't have come to save me. My brother's strong, you can't beat him. Liang Nanan's face turned serious. A gentleman, knowing what's right, must do it. I may not win, but I can still stop him. If people judged only by whether they could win before choosing to act, they wouldn't be heroes, they'd be cowards. I was momentarily dazed, not understanding. Liang Nanan sighed. Have you not begun to learn your letters yet? I shook my head. He asked again. What is your name? Where do you live? After I answered, I whispered. What is your name? I haven't thanked you yet. Liang Nanan waved a hand. No need. I don't help people for thanks. I help because I choose to. I'm going now. With that, he staggered away. But later, I learned his name. He was the youngest son of the wealthiest family in the region, Liang Nanan. When my younger brother accused me of consorting with a wild man and nearly beat me upon my return home, Liang Nanan's mother came to visit. She looked at me coldly. You're calling my son a wild man. I can still remember my father's look, part disappointment, part fear, part obsequiousness. He didn't beat me again. Instead, he urged me to interact more with Liang Nanan. His family had court connections. If ours could climb higher, we would no longer need to fear them. That was what my father said. But the mountain crumbled. Our marriage was delayed, then Liang Nanan was drafted into the army, and I married Xie Chaoji. I opened my eyes, surfacing slowly from memory. Lifting the carriage curtain, I saw the high gates of a temple, with countless stone steps stretching upward into incense mist and chanting. Master. Zhou removed the pins from my hair and sighed. Look at the sky, it seems the wind will rise. I fear snow will fall soon. Master, you should take the palanquin up the mountain. I shook my head. What I ask for can only be granted with sincerity. I looked up at the endless steps, took a deep breath, and without hesitation, knelt. 3 steps, then kneel again. I am no devotee, may the Buddha forgive me. But I had no other way now. I could only rely on the divine. My wish, for Liang Nanan to return safe, healthy, and fortunate. Only this wish, let it be fulfilled. Halfway up the mountain, my forehead was ice cold, snow had begun to fall. Still, I bowed and bowed again. This was considered the back path of Zhaohua Temple, meant for monks and pilgrims who wished to climb in devotion. It was narrower than the main road, and the steps were slick, more treacherous. I fell several times. My toes were numb, unable to feel pain. When I reached the temple gates, a pair of monk's shoes appeared before my eyes. Laywoman. The abbot sighed. Partings and separations are like dreams, you may dream of him, but cannot meet him, think of him, yet still not see him. I looked up, eyes wet, snow melting on my cheeks. I was dazed for a moment before understanding his words. I have drawn a lot for you. He still lives. I had been to Zhaohua Temple countless times, but this was the first time I'd received such certainty. Covering my face, I didn't know what to do with the surge of emotion. Come into the temple, drink some hot tea, take some vegetarian food. In the refectory, I cradled the tea, feeling the cold in my fingers slowly thaw into an ache. The temple was filled with chanting. The crowd of pilgrims and visitors was thick. When feeling returned to my limbs, I left the hall and went to the place where Liang Nanan often prayed. Clutching the jade pendant, I pressed my palms together in reverence. The dry branches sagged under snow and wind, weighing down on the frost that coated my hair. Suddenly, I felt a searing gaze from behind. I opened my eyes in confusion, turned, but in the moving crowd, saw no one looking at me. That evening, after returning to the estate, bathing, and washing away the scent of incense, I found someone sitting behind the screen. Where have you been? Xie Chaoji asked. With the new year approaching, I went to the temple to pray and make offerings, I replied coolly. He didn't leave. After a long silence, he asked, "What did you pray for?" "Just a stick of incense." "Only that?" The more he pressed, the less I could tell him about praying with Liang Nanan's pendant. I nodded curtly. "Only that." Xie Chaoji chuckled faintly, as if mocking, as if disbelieving. Leaning back against the table, he shelled melon seeds though the night was late. At last, he brushed his sleeve. "Time to sleep, wife." I sighed, but when I looked up, he was searching beneath my pillow, then rifling through my bedding as if hunting for something. "What is it?" I asked. He gave me a long, meaningful look, raising a brow. "I lost a jade pendant. My waist feels bare without it." "Since I've known you, you've never worn a jade pendant," I said instantly. "Perhaps you lost it with Yuer. Why not look in Chenying's room?" "It's important, but we can choose another day. No need to rush." As I spoke, I pulled him up with both hands, unhesitatingly steering him toward the door. His relaxed air vanished, anger flashing. "You really don't know your place." We had long since gone our separate ways. Now, I no longer cared to pretend. "My lord," I said with narrowed eyes, "it's late. Hurry along before it's too late, and mind you don't slip and sprawl in the street." His hand shot out, seizing my collar. In an instant, he dragged me down, pinning me beneath him. His beautiful peach blossom eyes were close, my hands braced against him, feeling the rush of his breath. "I hate that look of yours," Xie Chaoji said, each word deliberate, always so calm, as if nothing touches you. His gaze was sharp as flame, his face gleaming like polished steel. He could kill with beauty alone. I startled for a heartbeat, then steadied, meeting his eyes with cold indifference. "So what? Should I be like Chenying, fawning over you? Not everyone in this world will like you, love you. Some won't care at all." Xie Chaoji sneered. "Not care at all." But his smile gradually faded, along with the anger and irritation in his expression. Xie Chaoji's pupils contracted. Suddenly, he gripped my chin, tilting it upward until he was so close he could catch every smallest change in my eyes. "You're lying to me." His voice floated, unclear whether it was a question or his own conclusion. I pushed his hand away and stepped off the bed. He refused to let go, pulling me back. "You're lying to me." "Xie Chaoji." "Let go." I couldn't hold back, I shouted at him. Accustomed to a pampered life, with a foul temper to match, he instantly snapped. "You've got some nerve. Just because I brought Chenying into the household, you've been giving me the cold shoulder for days. Have you made enough of a scene?" His cold laugh cut through the air. "You really think I wanted to marry you? You're an ungrateful, stiff little clay statue, utterly dull." I sighed. After 3 years together, I knew Xie Chaoji well, glittering on the outside, hollow within. At his core, he was nothing but venomous and selfish. "You're right about everything. Go, Xie Chaoji." My tone was tired, dismissive. For a moment, I thought he might lose control, even break my neck. But then his shoulders slumped, and he looked, briefly, like a pitiful stray dog, before straightening abruptly, leaping off the bed, and storming out. As expected, my mother-in-law summoned me. I knelt before her chambers, the thick scent of fruit and incense cloying in the air. Since her arthritis worsened, she never left her room, propped against embroidered cushions, her clouded eyes not even looking my way. "Did you and Xie Chaoji quarrel yesterday?" Pressing my lips together, I knew this summons was for a scolding. She spoke bluntly. "Our Xie family has served the court for generations, yet you, daughter of a merchant, enter our doors without knowing your place, constantly making trouble. No wonder people speak ill of us. 3 years without a child, you should have been divorced long ago. Don't blame me for being frank. We've been patient for 3 years already." A bitter laugh stirred in my chest. It wasn't patience, only that they still saw use in me. Now that value had diminished, they could show their true aristocratic disdain. But things would not go as she wished. Both my father and my mother-in-law saw me as a chess piece in their trade of interests. What they didn't realize was that this piece could think and plan. Liang Nanan had once told me that books were the greatest treasure in the world, the source of knowledge, arming one against hardship. He taught me to read, to calculate, to understand the rules of the world and the subtleties of human nature. Because of that, as the Xie family's mistress, I learned the household accounts, controlled the flow of silver, won over the servants, and step by step stripped my mother-in-law of her authority. On the other side, I deliberately flaunted the Xie family's influence before my father, letting my brother sink into indulgence and gambling until he could no longer pull himself free. That was how I secured my own leverage. Holding the trump card in hand, I could remain calm and cold. Expressionless, I bowed. You're right. 3 years without a child is indeed my fault. Please help the Xie family draft the divorce letter. Her clouded eyes widened in shock. She clearly hadn't expected me to be so quick and compliant. She was faster than Xie Chaoji. In fact, by the time I left her room, a divorce letter was already in my hand. I exhaled in relief. Now, all that remained was to sign and seal it, and I could leave the Xie household completely. Once free, I'd prepare my travel papers and plan my journey, everything in readiness. Liang Nanan. I lifted my gaze to the pale blue sky, the monk's words echoing still. He is alive. I will find you, Liang Nanan. Even if I must cross 1,000 miles, risk 9 deaths for 1 life, travel to the western regions, and unearth every buried bone to be sure. Alive, I must see you. Dead, I must see your body. When I returned to my room to prepare my brush and ink, I had no idea how Xie Chaoji had heard. Still in his court robes, he kicked the door open. Don't sign. He shouted. I frowned, quickly pressing my fingerprint in red, and without hesitation, tucking the letter into my bodice. My swiftness made him flush red with rage. He lunged, and we circled the table like children playing chase. Xie Chaoji, in his fury, flipped the table with one hand. For all his noble airs, even in leaner times he had never stooped to the thuggish act of overturning furniture. Shocked, I stumbled back, straight into a corner. The inkstone smashed, black splattering onto his crimson robe, but he didn't care. His face was shadowed as he closed in. One hand clamped my wrist, the other reached into my bodice for the letter. Panicked, I decided to shatter my usual mild, pious mask, aiming a kick at his groin. He twisted aside, but my foot struck his thigh, and in that moment, he yanked the divorce letter from me. We fought like Yama facing Azura, neither yielding. I kicked and struggled, trying to bite the arm holding the letter. His jaw clenched so tight the veins in his neck bulged, but he refused to release it, instead tearing at the paper. The divorce letter was made of fine, thick stock, its edges bound in silk. At first it would not rip, then he pulled harder, frantic. It was only a single letter, but today it meant my freedom, to leave the Xie household and find Liang Nanan. I stared until my eyes burned red. Stop. Stop. You wretched, useless, vile man. My voice was so loud that, with the door still hanging open, the servants and maids in the courtyard dropped their brooms in fright and fled. Xie Chaoji gave a cold, bitter laugh. So you do know how to curse. All these years. I come home late, you don't curse. I freeze you out, you don't curse. I bring another woman into the house, you don't curse. But for a divorce letter, you curse me. Tao Qingyan. You're good at pretending. We've shared a bed for 3 years, and only now do I learn you want to leave, to part from me. Let me tell you, the Xie family is not a place you can come and go as you please. I won't allow it. Keep dreaming. He gripped so hard that his knuckles turned white, as if he meant to crush someone's throat, until at last he tore through the outer silk cover of the divorce letter. The moment the paper ripped, tears streamed down my face in fury. I reached out, clawing at his arm, but Xiaoji caught my wrist in one hand. With the other, he clutched the letter like a lifeline, refusing to let go. Tilting his head, he sank his teeth into it. It was as if he were chewing on pure hatred, shredding the divorce letter into ragged scraps between his teeth. When I finally broke free, I scrambled to gather the fragments, hoping perhaps I could piece them back together. But Xiaoji snatched them from my hands, stuffed them into his mouth, and looked at me without a trace of expression, like a victor. Lifting his chin, lips pressed tight, he slowly chewed. I lunged forward to pry his mouth open, but he didn't flinch or turn away, only mocked me silently before swallowing in one decisive gulp. For a brief, bitter moment, we were closer than we had been since our wedding night, forehead to forehead, eyes locked. And in his eyes, I saw my own confusion and pain reflected back. Losing control for a moment, I let go of him and leaned wearily against the wall. It's fine, I told myself. It's fine, another divorce letter can be written. It will only delay things a few days. It's fine. We regarded each other. His face bore scratches from my nails, his official robe was scuffed and wrinkled, his hat askew. As for me, my hair was in disarray, hairpins long lost, my makeup streaked with tears. He looked like a madman. I looked like a shrew. Wiping his mouth, Xiaoji said flatly. I have matters to attend to at the Hanlin Academy. I'll go first. I'll speak with my mother, you needn't bother coming yourself. I gave a bitter laugh, unable to understand. Xiaoji, what are you thinking? You don't like me, you like Chenying. Why keep me here in the Xie household? Don't you find me tiresome? His brows twitched. After a moment of silence, he said curtly. No. I sighed. So you want gentle Chenying, and my good management of the household, you want to enjoy the happiness of both women. He said nothing. I had always known he was not an honorable man, but I hadn't thought him capable of being this selfish, this greedy. Dream on, Xiaoji, I said coldly. I'd rather die than give you what you want. His expression changed, like a demon's flame flickering beneath ice. He growled. Tao Qingyan. What's so wrong with being soft? Why can't you bend a little? I shook my head, half laughing in disbelief. It's impossible for me to obey you. Unless Chenying and her 2 children never existed. Unless you hadn't sought out a courtesan in the very first year of our marriage. My gaze hardened. Xiaoji, I've wanted to tell you this for a long time, I despise you. He trembled, then opened his mouth, as if struck in the head. His voice was faint. Oh, so that's what you think of me. He stared at me. Do you know what I think of you? His peach blossom eyes gradually reddened. You are the greatest humiliation of my life. With my talent and my looks, why must I remain in this decaying family? Why must I bear the so-called responsibilities of the clan, and be forced to marry a merchant's daughter? Whenever I see you, I feel ashamed. Because you are nothing like a woman, you never cry, never make a scene, and instead help the Xie family rise again. Everything you do makes me feel. He ground his teeth, fists slamming against the wall. Makes me feel that our marriage was nothing more than a transaction. I didn't understand what he meant, his words were so disjointed, the cause and effect so tangled, that I simply ignored them. Leave, Xiaoji, I said. His eyes were bloodshot, perhaps from swallowing paper. The way he stared at me made my scalp prickle, but he said nothing more, finally turning to go. From overthinking and the strain on my wrist from our struggle, fever took me, my forehead burned. Joshua frowned in distress, constantly changing cool cloths for me. Later, she leaned in to whisper. Miss, get well soon. When you're better, I'll take you to see a fine man, muscles like carved stone, truly handsome. My eyelids fluttered weakly. Normally, I would avoid her nonsense, but now I could only lie there, stiff and listening. For some reason, the next morning I truly did feel better. True to her one-sided promise, Joshua spirited me to the rear courtyard. In truth, there was no need for secrecy. Aside from my mother-in-law and the maids loyal to Xie Chaoji, all the servants in the household were mine. And sure enough, I saw a man. In the biting cold of winter, with wind like knives, he stood in the stables bare-chested, grooming a horse. Joshua's voice was loud, full of excitement. "Miss, look." I was about to hush her when a man heard and looked up, then smiled blankly at me. His hair seemed a little longer. Perhaps because he hadn't expected anyone, it was loose, like the winter coat of a black panther. Awkwardly brushing straw from his trousers, he vaulted the fence and stopped 3 steps from me. "Mistress, ride horse." I looked at him, ready to refuse. His dark eyes clouded slightly as he groped for familiar words. "There is mare, very gentle, very beautiful." He spoke as if showing off a treasure. I couldn't help but smile faintly. All right. Even I was surprised to hear myself agree. A man grinned, bounding back into the stable. After a wild whistle, he led out a pure white mare, while he himself mounted an ordinary brown horse. The Xie family stables connected to the slope behind the estate, where a flat stretch served as a riding ground. Liang Nanan had once taught me to ride. I remembered the first time I'd mounted a horse. Every time it ran, I screamed. But Liang Nanan never scolded me. On the contrary, he praised me, saying that no matter what, I never let go of the reins. That was truly good. Back then, he had only been a youth, his features already taking shape, carrying the handsome spirit of boyhood, leading my horse, running lightly alongside, never showing the least embarrassment, only laughing freely as he patiently taught me. He told me, "Everything in this world is like this. Before you mount a horse, you won't know if it's gentle or wild. But no matter what, never let go of the reins, never give up hope. Only then can you control any horse, in any situation." I remembered Liang Nanan's words. I always remembered. For 3 years, I didn't know how many times I had climbed temple steps on my knees, how many times I had begged for news. I kept a tight grip on the reins that belonged to me. I would find him. A man's horse had no saddle, yet he sat it as though on level ground, his body easy and balanced. He leaned slightly, his left hand loosely holding the mare's reins. I smiled faintly. "It's fine. I know how to ride." With that, I whistled, leaned forward onto my horse's back, and shot off like an arrow. A man frowned slightly, stroked the bay's mane, gave a gentle nudge with his heel, and followed. He kept just half a length behind me, like the most silent of bodyguards. In the bright winter sunlight, the light fell across his honey-colored skin, his foreign-featured face taking on a wild but striking beauty. Not the cold arrogance of Xie Chaoji, but the warmth of a campfire, the fertile earth of spring mingled with sunlight and the scent of cloth. I asked, "A man, your riding is very good. Who taught you?" He shook his head and tapped his temple. "Forgot." His gaze was clear, guileless, as though he saw only me. "I forget all. Only remember." He gave me a thumbs up, then, with a steady, calm face. "Belongs to my homeland." "Which homeland?" "Don't know. But belongs there." Xie Chaoji, with fresh scratches on his face, emerged from the morning court as cold and stiff as ice. Word of our quarrel had spread quickly. The noble ladies competed to invite me to their gatherings, clearly hoping to collect gossip. I couldn't refuse them all, so I accepted. At the banquet, fans hid the smiles of those waiting for a good show. Someone asked, "There's something I don't know if I should ask." I sighed. "If you want to ask, then ask. If a woman named Chunying and Xie Chaoji both fell into the river, who would you save?" "Chunying," I replied lightly. I didn't notice their expressions change, so they pressed on. "What if it's Xie Chaoji?" I looked up. Xie Chaoji and who? They all knew me as the infatuated wife of Xie Chaoji, never knowing that I still remembered my childhood betrothed, Liang Nanan. One of them said. Then if Xie Chaoji and a stranger both fell into the river. I knew exactly what they wanted. To see me place my heart in the moonlight, only for it to shine down into the gutter. But I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Save the stranger, I said without hesitation. A sharp thud came from behind the folding screen. It quivered strangely. The lady before me flushed, smiling awkwardly. And after that? Naturally, I said, setting my chopsticks down and clapping my hands, stand there and applaud. The screen shifted, revealing a pale, shadowed face. I stared straight at Xie Chaoji, who had appeared from behind it, his complexion ashen. He bowed stiffly to the gathered ladies. Forgive the interruption, there's a matter at home. I must borrow my wife for a moment. He led me out to the carriage. Saying nothing, he only gripped the jade pendant I was holding. I struggled to keep it, his movements were practiced now, quick as a thief. Head high, pride nearly unbearable, he looked as though he had uncovered my greatest weakness. Don't think I don't know, just days ago, you braved the snow to pray at the temple for me. And in your room, all those embroideries, those paintings, full of feeling. If you want to play at softening me to bind me tighter, fine, but don't perform it in public. I didn't expose you to spare your face, don't push it. Must I throw the evidence in front of you to make you ashamed? It was ignorant, baseless guessing. I went pale, remembering the divorce letter he'd torn apart. Reaching out to seize the pendant, I knew what lay on its back. The name Liang Nanan carved there. But Xie Chaoji seemed to misunderstand my intent. For once, he looked pleased, lounging back like an arrogant boy, holding it out of my reach. I grabbed his collar, ready to punch him. In that instant, the smug smile froze on his lips. He turned the pendant over, and his eyes locked on the 3 carved characters. His face went instantly white. Like a man struck hard across the face, he stared in a daze. I snatched the pendant back, bolted toward the carriage door. Stop! I shouted to the driver. I had to get away, now. But his arm clamped around me from behind like an iron band. His hand covered my mouth, cold as ice. From behind, I couldn't see his expression. Only his voice, moving from wild to deathly calm. Don't stop. Faster. Back to the estate at once. Not a word more. He wouldn't even let me leave the carriage, holding me like a caged animal. In strength, I could never match him. For the first time, he wasn't angry, wasn't irritable, and that, more than anything, made me fear him. I tightened my grip on the jade pendant in my hand, and after a moment's thought, decided to hide it in my mouth. Even if Xie Chaoji could break my fingers, he couldn't pry open my mouth. The moment he tried to grab it, I swallowed it down. His eyes shifted slowly, watching my every smallest movement. He said nothing, but his arm tightened around me. My lord, what are you doing? Chunying, as always, came with the children. Seeing me in Xie Chaoji's arms, her eyes widened in shock and jealousy. Get out, Xie Chaoji said. She paled, quickly covering the mouth of the crying child and retreating. He carried me into my own room, then tore a strip from the bed curtain, binding my wrists and ankles. And then, Xie Chaoji began his madness. He smashed open my dressing box, taking out the jade pendants and small carvings inside. In a cold voice, he read the name engraved on the back. Liang Nanan. He tossed it aside, picked up another, read again. Liang Nanan. Over and over, item after item, each one turned, inspected, and discarded. He tore through my room, overturning boxes, shelves, cabinets. Perhaps 10 times, perhaps dozens. At last, standing amid the chaos, he looked down at the scattered keepsakes, then up at the empty cabinet. So many embroideries, so many paintings, yet not one of him. Liang Nanan. Liang Nanan. Liang Nanan. He nodded, murmuring the name, not just as if dazed, but as if grinding someone else's flesh and blood between his teeth. Finally, his gaze found me, crouched by the bed, trying to gather the pieces he had strewn. My wife, tell me. Who is Liang Nanan? I froze, curling in on myself. He tilted his head, cold and mocking. Oh, I forgot. You still have a jade pendant in your mouth. You can't speak. Step by step, he closed the distance. What is that pendant? I saw you at the temple today, praying over the one in the box. But the one you always carry, surely it's the most important to you, isn't it? Is it your token of love with Liang Nanan? Is it your love token? I glared at him, retreating inch by inch. I didn't want to argue with a madman. But he wanted to argue with me. With eyes lit by a devil's fire, Xia Chaoji suddenly gripped my jaw, pinching my throat to stop me swallowing. What is he to you? What has he done? What is so good about him that he's held the thoughts of another man's wife for 3 years? Question after question, none of which I would answer. I only furrowed my brows, bristling like a hedgehog, staring at him in defiance. He stared back. After a long moment, he loosened his grip and sighed. Don't swallow it, you'll choke. Don't worry, I won't take it. He bent, sitting heavily on the edge of the bed. Outside, the night was late. All the maids had been driven off, the room was pitch black, the darkness thick enough to smother. Silently, I sat up, fumbling for the scissors at the foot of the bed, cutting the fabric binding my wrists. For all his aristocratic pride, Xia Chaoji could never accept his wife caring for another man. To him, no matter how unfaithful he might be himself, his spouse could never take a step beyond. Now that he knew my feelings for Liang Nanan, perhaps he was already considering drowning me in a pig cage, or selling me. Xia Chaoji shifted. I gripped the scissors tighter. Bring the tinder, he ordered. The flames glow lit half his face in orange. His eyes, round beneath their thin lids, met mine before he tossed all the embroidery and handkerchiefs into the fire. Let's not speak of the past anymore, wife. Let's start over. He stared at the ashes as he spoke, his tone almost humble, almost pleading. But that, surely, was my mistake in hearing it. We had never had love, how could there be a new beginning? Better to open your heart and give me the divorce letter, I said. Then we'll be strangers. That's what starting over looks like. His back bent lower. He laughed softly for a moment, then covered his face with both hands. If we'd married and I had never met Chunying, would you have loved me? He asked quietly. It was an absurd question, half self-justification, half pathetic. I truly had no idea what he was thinking. Of course not, I said. I saw straight through him. Xia Chaoji, you don't know how to love, you're simply unwilling to lose. You're too arrogant, convinced everyone adores you. You can't love anyone, you just can't accept that I took the divorce letter so easily. You didn't expect that I never liked you at all. You can't accept being the exception. After hearing me, Xia Chaoji said nothing more, only stared at the things in the brazier until they burned to ash, then turned and left. That night, I dreamed. Liang Nanan was smiling, gentle as ever. Let it go. They're only lifeless objects. Burn them if you must. As long as you're unharmed, it's fine. He took out a handkerchief, set it lightly on the table, motioning for me to wipe my tears. But he kept his composure and maintained the propriety of 2 arms' lengths between us. I touched the handkerchief, murmuring. The jade pendant you gave me, I still have it. It wasn't burned. In reality, I had indeed kept it tucked close to my chest. But in the dream, I earnestly reached into my robe, drew it out, and carefully placed it in Liang Nanan's hand. See. It's still perfectly fine. When I looked up, he was gone. Panic rose in me. Liang Nanan. Liang Nanan. Where are you? The scene shifted. I was 15 again, standing in the heart of winter, plum blossoms in full bloom. But I had never liked plum blossoms, because I had never liked winter. It was too cold, my hands always cracked until they bled. My younger brother wore a cotton-padded winter coat, while mine was stuffed with coarse reed fluff. My face was stiff and red, like a little potato simmering over heat, trembling so hard my words came out in broken gasps. I disliked winter. Even more, I disliked going out in winter. But Liang Nanan had said he was in trouble, and that only I could help him. So I went without hesitation. My family was not wealthy, not truly. We only ever had what was needed. Although we were considered one of the richer families locally, my father was a practical man to the core. He calculated that I was a loss, since in the end, I would have to marry away. Any money spent on me was wasted in his eyes. He would not spend. But Liang Nanan would. He would give me a few strings of coins, add plates of pastries and fruit. Fruit in winter was so expensive that even my father dared not eat it. This is the reward you deserve, Liang Nanan said, for helping me with something important. You have fine handwriting, help me copy a sutra. At that age, a little praise went straight to my head. I agreed instantly, carefully writing the flowing characters on paper. After I wrote a few lines, Liang Nanan told me to stop, praised me again, and gave me several new winter garments. After a few more characters, he stopped me once more, saying my writing was perfect, and presented me with a box of salve for my cracked hands. I was giddy from the praise all day, my face flushed warm, while Liang Nanan's own smile was bright. When a small pile of gifts had accumulated beside me, he no longer found reasons to linger, leaving instead two of his elder sisters to sit with me. They covered their mouths and laughed. Oh my, how wonderful, how wonderful. I asked what was so wonderful. They pointed toward the window, where Liang Nanan and his elder brothers were training. See. Our boy never likes to practice martial arts, only reading and writing. Thanks to you, the lazy thing finally moved around a bit today. Their voices were not quiet at all. Liang Nanan kept his head down, pretending not to hear, lips pressed tight, ears burning red. Then the two sisters exclaimed. Oh, we forgot, there's soup simmering in the kitchen. We have to check it. Little brother, stay and entertain our guest. Liang Nanan froze, watched his sisters dart away, glanced toward his brothers still sparring in the courtyard, then turned back to me. Scratching his head, he stood outside the window where I leaned on the sill. He fidgeted with his fingers, cleared his throat, then suddenly blurted. I remember, it's your birthday today. I blinked, thought for a moment, then realized it was. But it made no difference, every year had this day. Birthdays are important, Liang Nanan said. I want to give you a gift. What would you like? At the time, I was shy, but I had my priorities in order. I admired Liang Nanan, he was kind to me, gave me things, I liked him. Covering my face, I pointed at him. Understanding, he followed the direction of my finger and unclipped the jade pendant at his waist, handing it to me. This one already has your name carved into it, so it won't look right if I wear it. Keep it for now. In a few days, I'll choose another style and carve you a new one. I was a little disappointed, my hopes dimming. Liang Nanan scratched his head again, coughing lightly. I looked at him, unblinking. Finally, he smiled, shy as a youth, his hand brushing the back of his neck as he leaned against the window frame, tilting his head back to the sky. Yesterday, my parents went to Zhaohua Temple to burn incense. I don't believe in such things, so I wandered to the back of the mountain. There's a plum garden there, bright and magnificent. It was truly beautiful. Tomorrow, would you like to go see it with my sisters? He looked at me, our eyes meeting, before he quickly dropped his gaze, then looked at me again. All right, I said. Suddenly, noise echoed down the corridor. His sisters carried in a pot of soup and a bowl of longevity noodles, while his brothers awkwardly entered with trays laden with food. Everyone was smiling. They looked at me warmly and said, Happy birthday, Qingyan. Another year older, may all go as you wish. From that day on, I began to like winter. Master. Master. You're awake. I woke from the beautiful dream to find Joshua frowning, shaking me urgently. We're locked in, we can't get out. I rubbed my head, slowly sat up, pulled on a cloak, and glanced toward the door. Outside stood a line of servants keeping guard. Xie Chaoji had locked me in. I sighed. Master, what do we do now? Joshua asked. Find a way to escape. I closed my eyes. Yesterday, he hadn't locked the door, but this morning he had. That could only mean he had discovered something I could not be allowed to see, and so he had suddenly shut me in. Joshua must have guessed part of it. She asked softly. What thing? I answered seriously. It has to do with Liang Nanan. On the second day of my confinement, when I woke, a single plum branch lay on the sitting room table. It could only have been a man. In the first bitter cold of winter, in this square iron box of a room, perhaps only he could bring me such a small sliver of warmth. On the third day, the accident happened. While I slept, I caught the scent of burning. I jolted awake. Inside the room, for some reason, firelight flared bright. I shook Joshua awake and rushed to push the door, but it was bolted tight. Someone had used the guard change to set my room alight. And in the night, when vigilance was lowest, the guards outside only realized the blaze when it roared high enough to heat the lock red. I heard the shouts outside. Water! Get water! If anyone wished me to die in this fire, it could only be Chunying. This wasn't the time to think on it. I pulled Joshua toward the rear window, only to find it blocked. Chunying's methods were truly ruthless. Grim-faced, I ordered Joshua to soak blankets in water and wrap them around us, while I grabbed a chair to smash the window. But before I could bring it down, pounding came from the other side. Once, twice, then shards of wood flew as a bloodied hand dropped into view, revealing a man's anxious face. He ripped the broken boards aside, clambered in, and with the fire already eating through the beams overhead, he lifted both Joshua and me with startling calm. With impossible strength, he dodged a falling post and leapt through the window. Master, Joshua said, the sea of fire lighting us in the dim dark, her voice low. This is our chance. We can escape now, no need to wait for the divorce letter. Once we're out of the Xie household, we can pretend the mistress has died, then buy false identities on the black market and live well. A man can come with us too, and later we could even. I clamped a hand over her mouth. A man, unashamed, his black eyes wide and guileless, said plainly. I heard. Go with. Master. Warm. Warm bed. Why had Joshua said such things to him? I sighed. In any case, he barely spoke the language, keeping him near was helping him. I nodded. Let's go. But a man pulled me back, shook his head, then easily scooped me up with one arm and slung Joshua over his shoulder. Kicking off the ground, he vaulted over the surrounding wall and bounded forward, light as flight. From her upside-down view, Joshua's excitement only grew. I lay in a man's arms, unable to move. His chest pressed against my cheek, and I dared not shift for fear of touching somewhere I shouldn't. I looked one last time at the house where I had lived for 3 years. Flames had eaten the doorframe, roaring high, servants stared in despair, knowing the fire might not be stopped. Tao Qingyan. The scream split the night, stopping my heart for a beat. Xie Chaoji had returned. He stood at the gate, not like in the storybooks, where the hero is restrained by strongmen. He made no move to charge into the fire. He was no fool, he knew no one could be saved now. But his face had gone pale, his eyes fixed, unmoving. Tao. Qingyan. A man repeated slowly, pronouncing it correctly though clumsily. You're learning fast, very good, I encouraged him. When we get out, I'll buy you cakes. He smiled at me, not as if I'd coaxed him, but as one might play with a child. We had barely left the house when my gaze snagged on something. Wait. Look there, don't move. I tugged at a man's collar, trembling, and nudged Joshua. Look. Those men over there, in the other courtyard, am I seeing wrong? I was not. The man was thin, wearing a tattered military uniform, a tag hanging at his neck, the kind worn by soldiers sent to the western regions. I could not help stepping forward. At last I understood why Xie Chaoji had locked me away. This man must be connected to Liang Nanan. That was why Xie Chaoji had brought him here under watch, and why I had been forbidden to leave. For the first time, I wished I could fly. I hurried forward. Luckily, most servants were off fighting the fire, and this courtyard was empty. The man, seeing my disheveled hair, started and bowed quickly. Forgive me, miss. I am a guest here. When I saw the fire, I wished to ask if help was needed. Liang Nanan, do you know Liang Nanan? I demanded. He frowned, then, seeing my anxious face, seemed to understand, his expression turning complicated. Miss, you are a friend of Brother Liang. After victory in the western regions, the general promised we could go home, but ordered us deeper into enemy territory. I deserted and returned from the west. Brother Liang asked me to come to the capital to find someone, but his family had moved. I lost the trail, my silver ran out, and so I am late, please do not blame me. Also, please thank Lord Xie for me, he truly is a good man. He said he would take me in, help me search, and I did not expect he would find the person so soon. The more I listened, the more my heart froze and burned at once, despair and hope twisting together. My voice shook as I asked. How is Liang Nanan? He's still alive, isn't he? The man lowered his head, hands clenched, swallowing hard before speaking. When Brother Liang asked me to find you, I forgot to tell you my name. I'm Wang Chuanin. And you, what's your name? Tao Qingyan. Where is he? Is he hurt? I asked quickly. I'll go to him, tell him not to worry. I have money now. I'll find him, and whatever he lacks, I'll provide. Wang Chuanin saw the hope lighting my face. In that instant, I remembered the abbot's words. He's still alive. I felt certain as if Liang Nanan stood right before me. I was already prepared. In the capital, I had several shops, all operated quietly behind the Xie family's back. They were troublesome to manage, and once I found Liang Nanan, I would sell them all, keeping only a rental house for monthly income. With the rest of the silver, I'd find a place with beautiful scenery, buy a fine house, and bring his family to live with us. We would be reunited. I even smiled at Wang Chuanin. He closed his eyes. Brother Liang has died. Before the battle, we all thought we might win, or die. Brother Liang, our leader, told us to say our farewells, and that if anyone survived, they must carry messages for those who fell. Wang Chuanin couldn't look at me. Turning away, he continued. He said he had 2 elder brothers and 2 elder sisters. As the youngest, he didn't worry for his parents' future or the family's legacy. He only feared for his childhood sweetheart, that if he died, she would be bullied. He told us that if he fell, the survivor must visit her and ensure no one dared mistreat her. By the end, Wang Chuanin's voice was hoarse. He was still young, but his deep-set eyes brimmed with tears. In the end, they all died, only I survived. Brother Liang should not have died. He knew some martial arts before enlistment, but I was the youngest, and he always protected me. Even on the battlefield, he shielded me, until the western region soldiers cleaved him in 2. Brother Liang. Brother Liang. He choked, beating his chest, forcing himself to finish. I gathered his body, held him close, hoping he could survive. But the wound on his back bled and bled, I couldn't stop it. I remember, his eyes were full of blood and tears. He looked to the sky, unable to speak from the pain, yet still forced out a few words. Awkwardly, Wang Chuanin wiped his face. He said, Buddha, please, I'll endure every hardship, every insult, work and starve as needed, just let me return to see her. I'll protect her. When he finished, he covered his face, dropping to his knees, sobbing silently. My ears rang. Oh. I heard my own voice as I bent forward, head on my knees. Joshua caught me, but I patted her hand lightly. It's fine. Life must go on. We can still live well. In the future, we can still live well. The moment I finished speaking, I gagged, and suddenly spat a mouthful of blood onto the ground. It hurt, yet strangely, it felt like any ordinary bout of nausea. So this is what they mean, I thought vaguely, grief can truly make you cough blood. My strength drained away, I sank to my knees. Joshua couldn't hold me and nearly fell herself. A man rushed forward to catch me. Before my eyes closed, I saw Xie Chaoji standing at a distance, his expression unreadable. He must have known for some time. I wondered what he felt, hearing that Liang Nanan was gone. Whatever it was, it no longer mattered to me. I lost consciousness completely. I was ill for a long time. Xie Chaoji visited me several times. The physician examined my pulse, and also discovered the contraceptive medicine I'd been taking. Xie Chaoji bribed him to report it. Enraged, Xie Chaoji punished Zhou Zhua, then personally took over administering my medicine. He would hand me the cup himself, watch me drink, and only then say coldly, "This will strengthen you. Once your body recovers, we can have a child." I looked at him without expression. Xie Chaoji was a glittering mire, unable to love anyone. Whenever he drew someone in, it was only to drag them into his swamp, bound with lies, chains, children, everything that could entangle them. Whether they survived after being pulled in was up to him. Just like Chunying. After discovering Chunying had set the fire, he went straight to the authorities, had her imprisoned and tortured. Her son Lanner knocked on his door, begging for her life, but was sent to an estate outside the city, forbidden contact, erased from the genealogy. Her younger child, Yuer, was still too small to speak. Xie Chaoji said he would entrust the boy to me, to raise as his foster mother. I stared at the ceiling without a word. His voice softened slightly. Wife, talk to me. It's been so many days, you haven't spoken a word to me." The room was silent. After a long pause, he said, "You don't like that slave a man, do you?" I suddenly lifted my head, knowing this wasn't a threat. Sure enough, Xie Chaoji's smile turned cold and frenzied. "If you say a word, I'll let him leave the stables." I met his gaze. "Say what? What do you like about him?" I didn't understand. He hated the name Liang Nanan, never spoke it, only using him in place of it. I lowered my eyes. What I like about him, how can it be put into words? He's family. Between family, do we need reasons to care for each other? I like the way he does things, with the strength of a man. Xie Chaoji was clever, he caught my meaning instantly. I went on. "Xie Chaoji, you said after the new year you'd give me the divorce letter. You lied. You're not strong, you're petty." "Anything but that," he said. "Anything but this, I'll do whatever you want." He truly did not want to let me go. I deliberately provoked him, meeting his gaze. "I want you to bring a man to my bedside. He will stay in my room forever, and no one will be able to drive him out." Xie Chaoji's face instantly turned to ice, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. But in the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Fine." I saw a man again. He had grown a little thinner, looked somewhat tired, but when he saw me, his eyes lit up. He still remembered his earlier vow, and with hesitation said, "Master, we are two paper Dayanflies, together." I smiled and let him rest on the bed. I only wanted to protect those around me as best I could. But I could not accept fate, not the fate of being slowly drained away by Xie Chaoji until I sank into the mire and died. I had Joshua quietly arrange a few familiar servants, use a pretext to summon an old acquaintance of Chunying's to visit, and let her believe Chunying had passed away, forcing Xie Chaoji to the receiving hall. I locked the door, set the fire, and burned away all grievances. The plan sounded simple, but carrying it out was anything but. Bribing servants, choosing the right moment, concealing information, erasing suspicion, every step required careful calculation. When it was all done, I finally exhaled, stroking the jade pendant in my bosom, watching the flames climb to the sky through the window. From now on, no one would take notice of me. I would live well, and for Liang Nanan's share too, I would live well. Joshua stood beside me, her expression complicated. After hesitating for a long while, she said, "There's something. I don't know if I should tell you. Actually, today's plan almost failed." After the master heard the news about Chunying, he didn't go to the hall. I panicked, afraid something would go wrong later, so I went there myself. She looked at me. Then I met the master on the way. He asked me where I was going. Flustered, I said the mistress knew about an old friend of Chunying's and told me to check first. He lowered his head, then smiled, and asked if the mistress wanted to come to the hall. I don't know why, but I nodded. Then he changed direction. Joshua was quiet for a while before speaking in a low voice. "Master, could it be he already knew? But if he knew, why did he still go?" I silently watched the magnificent blaze, eyes closing. After Xie Chaoji held a proper funeral, the Xie residents returned to peace. The plum blossoms were in full bloom. It was my birthday again. In the household, only Joshua remembered the date. She was busy making longevity noodles, too occupied to admire the blossoms with me. A man was walking quietly behind me when he suddenly stopped. He looked at me, then at the bright plum blossoms, scratching his head. I frowned. "What is it?" A man looked at me, then suddenly stammered. "Jiahua Temple." I froze. How did he know that place? A strange, eerie feeling slowly detonated in my mind. "What did you say?" "A man, what did you say?" He looked at me, struggling, clumsy, as though grasping at fragmented memories. "Yesterday, my parents went to Jiahua Temple to pray." My pupils shrank, my heart pounded wildly. "Go on. Keep talking." A man gazed blankly at me and continued. "I don't believe in it. Behind the mountain, there are plum blossoms, blazing, brilliant." My eyes opened as wide as they could, tears welling at the corners. A man's voice was warm, like the southern sun. "Very beautiful." Liang Nanan had never believed in Buddha, neither did I. But when he died, his eyes were full of bloody tears, his body cleaved in two. With his final breath, he had begged the Buddha for one thing. In this life, he was willing to suffer, willing to be reborn as the enemy who had killed him, only to return to the one he loved. Even if he forgot everything else, he would remember this. I wiped my tears, holding back my sobs. I let a man's calloused fingers gently brush the tear from my cheek. He asked, awkwardly, stammering each word. "Tomorrow, will you go see the plum blossoms with me?" Tao Qingyan. Yes. The end.